Hello fantastic people, today we'll learn how to create draggable panels and windows. Over here I have a simple canvas. And inside that canvas I have a window, which is nothing more than just a simple image. It's a parent of two objects, inventory, which is not really relevant for this tutorial, and the header. The header is just a simple empty game object, which has been placed at the very top of the window itself. If while holding Alt and Shift you change its anchor preset to one of the blue ones, it will stretch conveniently to occupy all of the available space. The presets on the right allow you to place it at the very bottom, in the middle, or at the very top. Then of course you can simply adjust its height. To make it draggable, we'll need a script. I'm going to call mine, well, draggable window. Before I start editing it, I'm going to assign it to my window object. I start by doing some cleanup, then I create a serialized private field for the input action reference, responsible for clicking. Of course I need to import the right namespace. Then I'm creating another serialized field for another input action reference, this time for the cursor position. Then we need some references to the transforms. First one for the panel itself, then for the canvas in which we'll be moving, and then for our header. Then another serialized reference, this time to the UI camera. Now it's time to create two private fields. First one for the offset. This will store the information about what's the difference between panel position and the mouse position when we are starting the drag. And then another private field, this time to store the information if we are currently dragging or not. Then we'll need a method to check if a given point is within the header or not. For that we can use this amazing RectTransformUtility class. Conveniently it has a method called rectangleContainsScreenPoint, which does exactly what it says. As the parameters we pass the header transform, then our pointer position, and then the UI camera. Next couple of methods will be added as a part of the subscription to the input actions. And because of that, we need to ensure that they will accept as a parameter input action callback context. And while we are on the subject of subscriptions, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Now the first method will be onClickStarted. Inside of it we first read a value of the pointer position action. Then we check if that position is inside the header using our isPointerOverHeader method. If so, we set the isDragging to true, and we once again use the RectTransformUtility class. This time with a method screenPoint to local point in rectangle. This method converts a given position to a local position within the given transform. In our case, the canvas transform. So simply saying, we give it screen position and we get to know where exactly on that canvas transform this screen position is. Then to get that information from the method, we use a parameter with the out keyword. Then we calculate the offset. This will prevent the window from snapping to another place when we start dragging. Now time for a very short method, this time onClickCancelled. The only thing we do inside of it is we set the isDragging to false. And now time for the core of the whole class, onPointMoved method. First, if we are not dragging, we simply return, we don't do anything. Otherwise, we read the vector to position from the input action. Then we once again use the same method from the RectTransformUtility class. Because we are using it already twice, it would probably be best to extract it to a new method. And lastly, we set the panel's anchored position to the local position we got from the RectTransformUtility and add our offset to it. Now of course on enable we have to subscribe to all of the actions. And of course unsubscribe them on disable. Then also on disable, we need to make sure we stop dragging. This will prevent strange behaviors if the window or panel gets disabled in the middle of dragging action. Now in the inspector on our script we have to set the references. Let's start with all of the transforms. Because my canvas is in the screen space overlay, I leave the UI camera empty. If your canvas would be screen space camera, then you need to make sure that the UI camera is set as well. For the input actions, I'm going to use some of the predefined inputs. For simplicity, I'm going to use the player's attack as the click action instead of the UI's click. That's because the UI's click would not work as expected without some changes to the action, and that's a little bit out of scope of this tutorial. If you would like to learn more about input actions, please let me know in the comments. For the cursor position action, I'm going to use the UI point. Let's test it out. Fantastic! Now let's quickly change the render mode on the canvas to screen space camera. As you see, it doesn't work. Not only that, our window is now behind the platform. Let's fix both of those issues. First, I'm going to move the canvas to the foreground sorting layer and give it some very high order in layer. Then, as mentioned before, I'm going to set the UI camera. And now everything is working as expected. I hope you learned something useful. Have a fantastic day, love you and bye bye.